I'm Miles. I got the chance to talk to Caroline Merner, co-founder of the Climate Guides, as well as one of Corporate Knights' top 30 under 30 sustainability leaders of 2019 about her work. Here's our conversation. I want to get a sense of, from your own perspective, specifically to your experience in leadership and making change, what you think people most widely recognize you for.
That's really interesting. I think I might be most recognized for my ability to connect people. I'm naturally more in a position to be a facilitator in creating space for young people to connect, especially through intergenerational connection, through mentorship, through abilities for young people to get connections with climate professionals too. So that started with Climate Guides, but now we're seeing that be really successful through Youth for Nature, through international delegations, and getting to meet with international delegates and climate professionals that way. So I think yeah, my leadership. I would suggest that being a connector is one of my my traits.
Right. And I guess when it comes to being a connector, if you now had to say who your people were without necessarily putting a title or name on these people, who would you say these people are?
Yeah, in terms of the young people who are part of our group, they're always 18 to 30 years old. Young people who have aspirations and ambitions on climate action, but are looking for ways to channel that energy productively and effectively to mobilize change. And then for those who we partner them up with, climate professionals, they could be in any sector related. So they could be in conservation and energy and communications, in different fields related to where you can take action on climate change, and then we partner them up, and introduce them, and through mentorship, it's quite interesting to see what can come out of a relationship like that.
Right. And if you had to say why young people are your people, are you able to say why?
For sure. Yeah, I think this generation is one where mobilizers are looking to make change. We're seeing that 18 to 30 years old, we're a part of this generation that wants to make impact on climate change, and we're seeing the impacts of climate change already affect our generation, and we'll see predicted into the future how this will really carry forward into our generation, and that we'll be bearing the impacts of climate change for our kids as well. So yeah, I think that this generation has really been called to action, and this is the reaction of that is us, making space, claiming our space and decision making spaces, and then making opportunities for other young people to have their voices heard.
Amazing. So now I want to get a sense of what values do you consider to be most important to you, and more so the values that you consider to at least try to live up to on a daily basis, rather than just the ones that you might think are nice, but you don't necessarily see reflected in your day to day activities.
Yeah, I definitely think that I'm trying to incorporate values of justice and compassion within my work. I'm seeing that creating community is so important for any youth initiative to thrive, and that definitely we're seeing, that the climate movement is combined of some incredible individuals, but it really is the collective that makes change, and that the justice needs to include all perspectives of young people. So those who are facing the impacts of climate change directly, those from marginalized communities, Indigenous, and people of color. I think in my leadership, I'd like to include more perspectives and have that as a value that really, yeah, comes through my work. And then also compassion, just in the sense of, not just living beings, but in harmony with nature too, and seeing ourselves not, apart from nature, but in nature, and that we are a part of nature too. So that's what Youth for Nature aims to bring awareness to young people, that nature is something that we need to protect, but also understand that human well-being is dependent on nature, and that we're intrinsically connected.
What would you be able to pinpoint as being the motivating force behind you actually acting acting on these values?
Yeah, well, I think I've generally, like, since I was in high school, I was really driven by environmental issues, and just driven by my connection to nature. But I would say it was going to the Arctic with an expedition called Students on Ice, and I know we talked about that in our article for Corporate Nights. But this expedition, I got to witness the impacts of climate change firsthand, and learning from researchers, educators from the Arctic, but then Inuit elders who were sharing knowledge, traditional Indigenous knowledge about these places and how they'd transformed in the span of one generation. And during this trip, I also got to meet another young person who you'll get the chance to talk with in about 20 minutes. But Marina and I met on that expedition. And yeah, it was really transformative. And we were encouraged to reflect on how we could bring these lessons learned about the impacts of climate change in the Arctic, how we bring those lessons home. And that's how we started Climate Guides. And so I think that was really pivotal for our journey in change making. And we haven't stopped organizing since. It's evolved in many different forms, but the ways that we support young people. But right after the expedition was when we started brainstorming about our first mentorship program.
So now I want to get a sense of where you currently find yourself, and then on that basis, what kind of future more so do you want to make in the world, let's say by the end of this year?
For sure. Yeah, I think 2020, however it looks, is going to be a very important year for young people in the decision making spaces, especially on nature based solutions. We know that nature based solutions to climate change is one of the biggest gaps in terms of climate action internationally, and we're seeing the young climate movement learn more about the connections between climate action and biodiversity loss. And we want to be a part of addressing that gap, and to make sure that young people are going forward in 2020, learning their space within this decision making area. And so, yeah, we know that a lot of international events, because of COVID and the coronavirus pandemic, are going to be removed to later on. And that's why it's so much more important for young people to get involved digitally, advocating on online spaces through social media, connecting on webinars and getting involved, organizing so that we can have our voices heard no matter how these international events look like in the future. We're doing that work right now, and we're seeing that projected into the future. This 2020 is going to make such a difference in terms of shaping the next decade on climate action. And so, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But that's sort of, for this year anyways, there are a lot of shifts underway.
I want to ask you, what exact role do you see yourself playing in making that kind of future?
Oh, right, for sure. I see myself supporting other young people to get involved in this movement. We are, as Youth for Nature, at a pivotal time right now where we're hiring new team members and expanding our network. And I see myself supporting these young people to get involved, and being one of the co-leaders of this movement. I definitely see myself continuing in this work and supporting nature-based solutions in the mainstreaming nature-based solutions, and making sure that young people have the resources and tools to get connected.
So if we were to now expand the timeline, I want to now get a sense of where you see yourself personally in 5 years. And this could be not only personally, but also professionally, geographically, any of these or all of them.
That's always such a good question, and I think I would be doing similar work that I'm doing now in climate change communications, youth engagement space. I know in 5 years I might be close to 30, which is the kind of borderline young people, but I still see myself in advocacy internationally as well. advocating for nature-based solutions and youth engagement in climate action. And I think there's so much room for change that will happen in the next 5 years. I see myself organizing in community and making sure that those in marginalized communities, their voices are heard. And I think I'm sort of trying to build this path, and as you're asking about this 5 years, we're actually right now writing proposals for programs and different partnerships that'll take us to 5 years, and our vision is, to engage nearly 1 million young people who would be interested in mobilizing on nature-based solutions and implementing these kinds of projects, whether restoration, conservation, agriculture, in their local communities. And I see that being really transformative over this long term. So I'm very hopeful about the impact that we can have, and 5 years will mean so much change.
I want to get a sense of if there's any pivotal content that has come into your life, whether it be a book or a podcast or anything, even if it was someone's advice, that has truly pivoted the way that you go about your life in general.
For sure. Yeah, I think in the beginning of 2020, I read Adrienne Marie Brown's Emergent Strategy book, and she also has a podcast with her sister called How to Survive the End of the World, which seemed at the time didn't know what to expect of 2020, and it just seems so fitting. Some of these lessons that I'm learning about facilitation and making space for diverse voices, and how to ground your change making in the understanding of nature. These are all lessons that I'm trying to incorporate within my organizing work, and it's been super influential. So I would recommend that book, Emergent Strategy.